On Tabernacle Tales, my guests and I will discuss topical themes and have some spirited conversations so you can join me virtually for a happy hour with your favorite libation that may or may not involve spirits. And one thing's for sure, no ghosts allowed on Tabernacle Tales. We don't want to scare you away with booze. Hey, Janice, good to see you. Welcome to my podcast, Tabernacle Tales. I'm so excited to be chatting with you because I know you and I have chatted about your very interesting background. You've transitioned different industries and you've had success. So just go ahead and tell me, spill the beans.
Spill the beans. Well, Molly, I always say I have an interesting past that brought me to the current industry I am today. So the fun thing is, coming from California, I started in the food industry. So anywhere from selling fresh fruit to working at Nestle Foods, working in the grocery division. And the amazing thing that really got my transition into pharma is I did so well selling pet food, one of their particular lines, that like a truckload of 40 pallets to a super Kmart, which don't exist anymore, I don't think today.
Yeah.
That got me noticed to go into scientific pet food. And then one day, so I took the promotion, and one day I was in a PetSmart doing a taste test for the dogs in the aisle. So think about like a Costco. And I said, if I could do this for dogs, why can't I do this for humans? And then that's when my focus went into looking at in the pharmaceutical industry, and I landed my first job at the end of my career at Nestle, working in scientific pet food. And then I haven't been out of the industry for the last 20 something years. So I've stayed in it, and I've had a very interesting trajectory going from sales from the pharma to device and then back into pharma, and transitioning from hospital sales to multiple different roles in marketing, digital strategy, working and looking at opportunities for the brands to leverage innovation in technology and be a trailblazer. So I'm still currently in the marketing, I've had different marketing roles, like I said, in strategy, working on in oncology brands, promotions, to where I am today in marketing and operations, working on all omni-channel campaigns and pulling through the tactics. So it's a lot of fun in this capacity.
Did you make your role choices? Because sometimes, my role choices have been mine, and sometimes, people have seen certain qualities or skills in me, and then they kind of recommend me to move into something else. So has that kind of been your experience, or you made the decisions and said, I feel in my gut, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to give it my best shot? Like, how did you manage transitioning different roles within the pharma industry?
Mixed basket, Molly. So the one thing I did know, and it was back in about 2014, which was going from sales into the marketing world, when I was face to face at one of my medical schools in Oregon, that when you have a good engagement with a doctor, it's a win. You read through your entire brochure, so to speak. But at that time, we had already transitioned to iPad. So we were digital. But at the end of it, I said, okay, I have a physical resource. What I went through, you could take with you. He goes, no, I'm on my way to the OR. Can you email to me? And that point, we didn't have that capability. And I don't think anyone at the time in pharma did. They were already just slowly just venturing from the digital, getting a digital sort of modules onto an iPad at the time. Yeah. I was actually instrumental helping launch some of that in my further dip into the marketing world, because I did a rotation back at the company I'd worked at. And, that's what catapulted me. I said, the engagement's changing. I'm very interested in this digital request. And I want to learn more about it. So I went back to grad school and got a master's in the digital marketing world. So to speak, at Northwestern University, it's called Integrated Marketing Communication, embedded both in traditional and digital, leveraging the both and the convergence of the industry. Yeah. And I know you have an advertising background, and a lot of it was embedded because they're all ad agencies that are in the Chicago area that teach at this school. But it's really shown how they built the one thing that was really interesting is data, how all these different omni channels are working together and we're pulling
Mhm.
that data. And then they were saying before I graduated at one point where it's the predictive analytics are going to get to a point where we know at the second when that person's going to make a decision or needs to make a decision to buy something or reorder something.
Yeah.
And so that all caught my mind. And that's the same thing we're using and leveraging in with our physicians too, and understanding their behaviors. But 2016, I completed my master's. So, but that really opened the doors. And
Yeah.
that opened the doors to all these digital roles back at this larger pharma company I used to work at. And I worked there for 16 years. And then now I'm at where the company you and I work at today. So I've been leveraging that and my career's been building from that. So, and
Yes.
I'm learning still. There's still so much to learn in this industry.
Definitely, because you can never rest on your laurels and say, "Oh, I've reached the pinnacle." I mean, I'm always learning, even at this stage in my life, this stage in my career. I'm learning from other people. I go online and learn as well. So yeah, I don't think
Well,
anyone can
like
stop.
you, Molly, you've remained relevant. So, I mean, if I was to flip the camera on you and ask you the question, you have done everything. You have foreseen the change in the industries so well that it's like you're always ahead of the curve. I know we're hiring new grads, undergrads, and grads, and they're entering and they have the latest in technology and in new in new terms that are leveraging and pushing our industry forward. But you've never deviated. It's like you roll with it. You're always either aligned or ahead, and then you're adapting and learning and applying that. And that's why I've used you as a mentor when I came into our company, because it's
Thank
like,
you.
okay, I worked here, but I'm actually doing something completely different here, because what I did was I was the client. Now I'm on the other side of that role, so to speak, and I have to leverage and understand the services we provide and try to implement those that we already actually have contracted in. But
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell me, I mean, even share your journey with me.
Yes. So, Janice, sometimes they say, that old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think, against the grain of that, because
Yes.
from the time I was little, I've always been interested in learning, and my competition is myself. I don't look at anybody else and say, "Oh, I want to be better than that person," or, I just want to be a better version of myself. So I'm always, learning. I'm always online. I don't indulge in wasting my time with, petty stuff. I'm always learning and growing. So even this podcasting, it's leveraging my experience from years ago when I used to be on radio while I was working full time at Singapore Airlines. And I was also a world news anchor on Sunday nights on TV. So I wanted to leverage, because I've taught myself a lot of stuff. I've gone to classes and learned. So I'm always keeping my skills abreast. So, to me, doing this video podcast came naturally because of my interest and also, things that I have learned. I've learned video editing. So that's what got me started on this Tabernacle Tales. And I'm just hoping that, you know, that you and I can continue as we go on this journey together, that, we continue to learn and just stay relevant.
I know the big challenge is staying relevant. Like you, if I see something like on LinkedIn, I'll take the course or refresh myself. Like, oh God, that was a few years ago. What's that? Learn more about the new ways. Like, Google Analytics has gone from 3 to 4. Well, what does that mean? And what does that mean to the conversations we're having with our clients? Because again, they might teach this in school or they share that we're doing this on this account, but do we really have the background? Because we have the tech people who do
Yeah.
have the background, but we still have to be in those conversations. Like when I worked on an Alexa skill project back at my old company, I didn't even know what an Alexa skill was. I decided if I'm going to be on this project, I'm going to take some of the Alexa skill training.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, what are they programming in? What does that mean? At least follow the conversation and ask the right questions. And that's the one thing I don't like, to be smoked out of a conversation and have I at least want to know high level enough to ask the right questions, even steer the meeting in the right directions and call on the right people. Like you lead meetings, you are leading projects, you are leading cross-functional teams from inside offshore to the client. And even though you may not be a computer science engineer, so to speak, or a data analytics scientist, you still have to know what the language they're speaking. And
Yes.
I mean, maybe you can share that with me as I've been sharing with you how that's impacted you too.
Yes. So, when I'm somebody who I need to understand from A to Z, when I'm
Mm.
given something, I'm not somebody who says, oh, this is all I have to do. So when this comes to me, toss it over the fence. I get fully immersed. I have to learn everything, all the moving parts, so that I understand enough to know when we are hitting a wall or we're coming up on a hurdle, so that I can foresee that and then
Mm-hmm.
immediately do something, get somebody to help. So that's kind of how I've managed, because with data integrations, I'm not, somebody who's technical, who knows how all the, technology behind works, but I know enough to sort of understand how things work and who to ask the questions from, so that I keep things moving.
So it's interesting. You mentioned something that has always something I keep core to the work I'm doing or observing. So back in my other company, I was actually studying and I was going to take the test and I missed, let's just face it, I missed the deadline because there was a lot going on. But I was going to get my alliance certification.
Mhm.
So, because I was part of our Strategic Alliance Center of Excellence team. And the one thing I always stuck in my mind is I did at least get a Scrum Master certification, but what stuck in my mind is risk mitigation. And even as a rep, a hospital rep, you're always mitigating against risk what you say. You don't want to ever be in a position the FDA saying, oh, you're off label, you're promoting wrong, or did you
Mhm.
imply this? But even when we're in our world of marketing, operations, pulling through all these projects and building these solutions out, even foreseeing and we do the timelines, we know when everything's due. It's the whole process, agile process, or whatever you're implementing here. But it all makes sense. What we're saying here is that you're also looking like, okay, if they're going to go to a med legal review on this date, we have to be ready on this date. But if we're also waiting after they've gone to med legal review to get the handoff from approval, and if we don't get it, we
Yeah.
miss our deadline. How do we mitigate against that risk? Who do we implement the med legal review people, let them know that this is a campaign or a launch, and get them involved in the conversation, so they're also nurturing this along and not being saying, well, you blew it for us, or the product strategy team's mad at us. I see, and I've seen you do it, and I've taken your way of approach to what I've already experienced and implemented and built on that. And I want you to share, how you're doing that now. Because I think everything now with your new project, you're always mitigating against risk, it seems like.
Yes. So I don't know. That's kind of my personality, is like I said, I get to know all the moving parts, so I can foresee. I look at timelines, and I don't wait till the day before to sound the alarm. I'm always getting a pulse readout on how things are moving along, and when communication needs to be made to the relevant people, so that expectations, it's always setting and managing expectations, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't overpromise and underdeliver. I always make sure that my dad was a man who taught me, your word is your agreement. So that's your contract. So if I give my word to somebody that something is going to be done, come hell or high water, whether I have to stay up all night or whatever needs to be done, I'm going to come through. So because of that, like, I can't expect everybody else to do the same, but I can anticipate and know when something, so that we don't get into that situation where somebody has to be pulling an all-nighter. So it's anticipating and seeing, how things are moving. And That's always been my personality, the ability to see ahead. Oh, I can see this roadblock. I can see this hurdle. I can see as we're taking the bend, I see this other car coming. Kind of being able to read and anticipate is something that has come naturally to me.
Yeah, you said two important things that came to mind. One is it goes back to I come from a farming background. My dad went to school for it, wanted to be a viticulture major, and I mean he's a wine grower, a peach grower, you name it. He's managed farms, but in his retirement time, just focuses on his backyard, so to speak. But the gentleman's agreement of a handshake. So when you give your word, and my dad used to tell me this, when you shake your hand, look someone like give your word, it's the same to him as a sealed contract.
Yes.
And I've always had that mentality that my word is my honor.
Yeah.
And also with that word is you said something, and this is something that was a struggle for me when I came over to our company. Because again, going back to I was the client and you've been the client before. Yeah. Is foreseeing, because this was a new road. Because now instead of me asking, okay, I need you to build this website, this has been approved, build it. And then we need to deploy it on this date. That was me given, I'm going to just say the orders or the instructions. But now I have to be on the other side and understand all the technicalities and steps that take to get there. And so learning how to foresee and mitigate that risk. I mean, how have you, I want to hear how you transitioned. And a lot of it came from learning from you, because remember, I watched you, I got to observe you for a while, but it blew my mind, like, oh my God, I have to think about that. I just thought I could just ask for it and they'll give it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you, I mean, you had a transition to, how did you even change your mind?